Do you own a service business? If so, you may want to pay attention. Do you remember why you started that business in the first place? All the time and financial freedom you were going to have with your family and friends? Then you ended up wearing so many different hats in your business, and the thought around growing the business means more time at work, less time with family and friends, and more headaches with employees. If that's you, we have the solution. It's a simple formula that works, and it starts with structuring your business in a simple way that makes everything else easier. Finding and hiring the right people that actually help you grow the business, and helping you implement the key things to make your whole team more efficient and effective. This is the Pivot Ready Business System by Bergflow. We've helped hundreds of small service businesses grow and become highly successful. Elevate your opportunities, profits, and time freedom. Visit www.bergflow.com/podcast to claim your free video to learn more. You're just minutes away from learning how to transform your service business and your life. Hey, what's up, everybody out there? Welcome to the Under Pressure podcast, where we're going to talk about all things business and under pressure. So glad to have you with us. Today, I've got Ben Brown. He is a business owner, entrepreneur in the Window Hero service. So we're so grateful that he can join us today. He's going to give us a little perspective on kind of this new franchise, diving into that. But let me tell you a little bit about Ben. So Ben, you live in Tennessee. You were born there. You have married, 2 boys, 1 girl. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
That's enough to keep you busy. Ben loves spending time with his family. He sent me this list of all these sports and stuff that his kids are involved in that they love to do. The list was very long. It's got to be exhausting, but that sounds awesome that you're really that into, your family and connecting. It's so great that you're able to do that. And it's very important. So that I commend you for that. Involved in your community, which is always fantastic, your church. And so you started your career selling commercial playgrounds. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about that before we get a little too far. What's up with this commercial playground stuff? What's going on with
man.
that?
Well, I mean, every you think about beautification of a community and the lifestyle of a community, and what does it revolve around? Parks. Where can you take your kids? What can you go do outside that doesn't cost a lot of money? And every good neighborhood has a playground or a park that you remember growing up. And so park is where kids can go. They can play on a soccer field. They can play on a baseball field. They can play on a playground, and you don't have any. There's no judgment of the people there. You just go play. And so I was afforded the opportunity by a buddy of mine I still communicate with, a mentor in a lot of ways, that that offered me a position to help them scale their company and kind of take over the the overall sales as a fresh out of college kid who knew nothing about sales and business except for thinking I knew more than I did know. And man, it was a fun time. I did it for about 11 years and really enjoyed it. I've got a lot of really cool playgrounds out there. I have pictures on my wall that my kids have played on, and I've gotten old enough to where there's playgrounds that I sold that are no longer there because they got old and dilapidated. So that's a story of how time can kill your career as well.
Oh, wow.
It's a
that's cool.
It's a fun endeavor.
Yeah, that's cool. Of course we pass parks all the time, and I never really think about, I mean, obviously, someone's going out there and they're putting that stuff up and building those, but as far as like selling those, that could be kind of fun. So tell me a little bit about, you said this was like right after college. So what'd you study? What'd you go to college for?
Depends on the year. I started out wanting to fly airplanes, and then I went into a couple of other areas. Music was an area I wanted to kind of focus on, and realized that I can't sing and I can't tune things well. So, can't play anything. So as a 18, 19-year-old kid, you look around and going, what I really want to do. And so, um, you know, I've always been able to, talk to people, have conversations, and, business was one of those things where you feel like you can make an impact because you're having conversations with people, you're listening and understanding, what they need and how you can, solve some of their pains. And so, business for me was something. Yes, you don't have to have a degree to go into business, as many people well know. But at the same time, as a young man, it afforded me the time to mature and grow up, um, and kind of hopefully set myself up to understand more of the things that you know are trying to learn throughout your life. And so I ended up focusing on business.
Nice. Okay. I like that. Yeah, I went to college and really didn't have a clue. I was like, I'm going to be an attorney, and that was just something I thought would make money. And then I started looking at the price tag. I was set up as like pre-law, and then I was
Yeah.
looking at the price tag on law school, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a right turn here and focus on something a little, a little different. Yeah, just not wanting to go in that kind of debt. So college can be such a, like you said, you said it, like 18, 19-year-old, you're moving in, like, do you really know what you want to do? I really wish they would focus more in school, like helping people kind of
Right.
work towards like what are you really interested in. Um so you did this for 11 years, selling playgrounds, which is cool. And then what? You moved into cybersecurity and software, selling that. How'd you
Yeah.
get involved in that?
Yeah, I had some buddies who started a software company. So they sold insurance, and they had this piece of software, but they were running their offices, and they wanted someone to come in and kind of build out a process behind the selling mechanism and onboarding. And um, it's all about churn when you're in software. How can you keep people in your system every single day using it appropriately? Because otherwise they're gonna bounce. So I started off with a startup, and it went really well. Enjoyed it, but I wanted to grow within my career. Like I wanted to, chase that carrot, keep moving up in the ranks. And with the startup company, it's hard to do that. Like there's so little overhead, and so much. You're trying to keep the business afloat. So I started my career moving into more of a security area, and came on board with a couple other companies as I moved through my career, and ended up with a large enterprise organization. And we sold to some of the top Fortune 1000, 100, 500 companies out there. And I enjoyed it, but it was not something, there were a few hurdles long term that I was, with inflation, COVID, all those things kind of happening, that you just hit, a lot of stops, a lot of bricks in the road kind of thing. And I got to a point where I was tired of chasing that carrot. I was tired of chasing, wanting to move to that next level. There's a lot of, took a lot of things from it, learned a lot. Had a lot of mentors, had a lot of good friends I still keep in communication with, but um, you know, really enjoyed it, the process behind it. But it's a very convoluted world nowadays with the tech stack and companies. I mean, think about how many apps we have on our computer and our phone, trying to get all those things to work together. It's impossible in an enterprise unless you have the processes and the right software. And so I just was fairly tired of it and ready to do something more local.
Okay. Yeah. No, and I'd like to land on that just for a moment. Um, you're getting all these sales skills and things like that. So I think, you know, talking about there's so many people, they really feel like they get in something and they just kind of stick with it, and they
Mhm.
don't bother moving from it, especially if it's paying the bills and it's doing what it's supposed to
Mhm.
do. Um, and they're just going to kind of grind it out. It's a slow death of, I've got to do this. It's totally fine. I'll just make it work. Um, and it sounds like you were in that position to some degree, but you chose to jump out of that. Which, is that scary? Was that like I mean, changing careers, I think nowadays, there was a time where people, they went to the factory and they spent their career, 25, 30, 35, 40 years doing the exact same job. And they retired and then they lived a slow death or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Nowadays it seems, so tell me about your experience there, like just going from one sales to another sales and then jumping into kind of your own thing. But before we get into the franchise side of that, how does your family respond to that? Your wife, or what were your thoughts around that?
Oh, there's a lot of thoughts.
We want to hear them.
Going from a, somewhat steady salary career, you don't have to worry about your overhead, employees, the bottom line, P&L, marketing, anything. You have one goal. Your goal is to go and find your client, sell to them, get them onboarded, make your money, move on.
Yeah.
It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's a very hard process.
Sure.
But moving from that and saying, hey, I want to start my own business. I want to go in debt. We have an 18-month-old, so all this is in the same time frame. My wife started another job. She had a new opportunity come along, and she's in the medical field, pharmacy world, and we took on a lot. And, we're going to look back in 5-7 years and go, it was worth it.
Yeah.
It's a tough transition. It is a crazy transition. To leave that security, financially, mentally, physically, of knowing, hey, I can go out, I can always get a job. I can always work for people. I know what I bring to the table. But then to say, okay, I want to leave this behind and go impact my community, do something that I know that I can do, which is, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to build a business. I've never done it before. There's a lot of bumps in the road with it. But using what I've learned to take that to a, the blue collar world, man, it's scary. It's super scary. It still is. And there's a lot of conversation behind the scenes that everyone knows about their spouses that happens. And why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You've got to be able to answer that question. And that's, the same process that I'm trying to sell to is, why am I going to hire you? My wife and I have the same conversations. Why are we doing this? Why are we putting all this work in to only make X this year? To only, in 5 years, what's it look like? You can make good money in other areas too. And like, said, work through that process and kind of build out a, plan for the future, because you're building an asset, you're building a company that has value to it. The risk and the reward go hand in hand, but you don't have any risk when you're an employee.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's scary, man. It is not something you just want to jump into.
Yeah. And that's a very good point. And I appreciate you sharing that. Like that risk side of things, like it's so, and I say easy, it's still, like you mentioned, it is difficult going to work every day, and you still have to perform, and you still have your KPIs or whatever it is you're trying to hit, depending on your job. But as long as you're moving some kind of ball forward, you're probably going to sit there and work. Now, yeah, is there a risk that whatever company you work for could go under? Sure. I guess any business could technically close the doors or whatever that looks like. But there's probably, especially when you have the experience, there's always something that you can go and pick up and do and get hired to do. But taking this step out into this new pool of, I'm going to work for myself, or I'm going to start something for myself. And like you say, 18-month-old, you got 2 younger boys as well. Like, it's definitely scary. And I hear these stories, but I commend you for the risk side of this, right? Like that is something that a lot of people don't have in them, right? They don't have that ability to step out and take that kind of risk.
Mhm.
So talking about that or thinking about that, what really inspired you to want to start your own thing? So you're talking about like, yes, this is, this is a challenge. There's these behind the scenes conversation with your spouse and all these things. What really motivated you and inspired you to do that?
Um, I mean, a lot of things. My wife is always asking, "Hey, when can we, when you clean our house, when you clean our gutters, we need our windows cleaned. We have a tree in the backyard that just fell this past week. Who do we call for that?" And you know, there was always that conversation, and kind of, I had a buddy who's also in enterprise software, and we were kind of having a conversation. It's like, dude, think about a plumber. Like, they go out there, do their work. It's great, you know. And when you build that, we know the plumbing companies, we know the HVAC companies that are, the top of the top tier. But you don't know, like, you may know a tree company, but for the most part, like, most people don't know, a window company or a pressure washing company or a gutter clean. Like, they don't have someone that they know. It's more of a, I'm just gonna look up on Google.
Yeah.
And you know, the overall mentality behind this is who's coming to your house. And not to be judgmental by any means, but at the same time, I do have a wife and kids.
Mhm.
I do have a family here. I want to know the security behind who's coming to my house, who's coming inside my house. And, you know, I live in my area that's my demographic. And,
Right.
we play baseball, we play football with, the same people. I want to know who's going to their house. Who do they trust? So the risk is based on kind of understanding your demographic. There's there's 1,000 pressure washing, power washing companies here in town. There's 500 window cleaning companies here in town. They get the term the truck in a truck, the bucket Bob on the window cleaning side, like. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a market for someone pulling a pressure washer off their truck, hooking up to a water hose, and going at it with 2.5 gallons a minute, and spending all day long doing a driveway. There's a market for that.
Sure.
Um, but there's not a true business that's lined and outlined in a way that is, hey, you offer the pressure washing, the gutter cleaning, the gutter guards, the window cleaning. You offer a full service exterior cleaning company that you also are optimizing as a true business. It's the owner operator model. One guy, one truck. He may have someone with him, or seasonal. So to me, the risk is based on opportunity, not jumping into a business. It's a $10 billion a year industry.
Yeah.
There's opportunity there.
Absolutely.
But in my world, with 3 kids, with sports, with church, with community activities, I don't have time to do any of this stuff that I want to do. I'm not getting on my 32-foot roof and cleaning my gutters or installing new gutter guards. So who am I going to call? I'm going to call someone that I trust, someone that my neighbors trust.
Yeah.
And so the risk and the opportunity allows me to mold and build a culture and a model surrounding a professional level of service.
Nice. Nice. So how, just out of curiosity, so everyone, we said it earlier, and we kind of, obviously you started this, and I think you said November, you kind of dove in November 22 or
Yeah.
2022, you dove into this franchise Window Hero, and you launched March 1st of
Right.
2023. So how much time did you spend before like nailing this Window Hero down, like that you knew that's what you wanted to do? How much, if you had to put hours on it and guess, or how much time did you spend doing the research around what franchise to go with, and why a franchise? Why not just start
Right.
something fresh with your own name and your own, give us a little insight on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, anybody out there can go buy a pressure washer. You can go buy the skid that I have on my truck. You can design your own website. You can design your own marketing. You can do all this stuff that has been done for me. A franchise model is one of the, not easiest forms, but one of the most outlined forms of wealth, growing out there. There's a reason why franchise restaurants do better than non-franchise restaurants. Yeah. It's harder. People struggle because, one, if you don't know your clients, you don't know your business, you don't know your pricing, you've got to know all these things and build it out. And that's what I spent my time trying to accomplish, but also utilizing Window Hero franchise, which, they had 10 to 17 years of franchises in place. They had a culture that focused on community, accountability, respect, service, making sure that, one, you're not just building out a company, you're building a culture within your employees and your community. And that's what sold me on Window Hero, was the culture that they had in place at their home branch, at the franchise itself. Franchises, you have a support system that you can't hire. I can't hire a 3-person, 4-person, 5-person marketing team that's going to manage my GMB, that's going to manage my Facebook, that is going to add pictures, that's going to manage my Google ads. I can't hire that. I can't hire an operations person that I can say, hey, here's what happened. What do I do here? Or I can't talk to, I can't call a competitor for the most part and say, hey, man, I got a question about this. What would you charge? Yeah. That family, essentially, that network is massive. It's a huge ability for me as a new owner to dive into. So one of the franchise model for me was the right way to do it. There's a lot of people who say, I can't, I can do this by myself. That's great. Your ramp is going to be a lot longer. It's going to happen. But, diving from leaving that world of software sales to jumping into this, a lot of thought. I met them, I had dinner with them, stayed down for a couple of days, continually had conversations, talked to neighbors, friends, family, people all in my community, talked to competitors, looked at what they're doing, drove around, understanding what does my demographic look like. Yeah. So visualization is key. If you don't visualize it, but you just jump into it, you miss things. Yeah. So that's kind of where I started, was just kind of taking a lot of time to sit down and really focus on what do I need to do to make this successful from day one, not just start to start.
Nice. So on the franchise, I mean, I've only interviewed one other franchisee. He was in the lawn business, and right. So you're really new at this, and on the franchise side, talk about the process. You just mentioned a little bit of it, but specifically for those that are really weighing that, do I just go out and get the trailer with the pumps and pressure washing and window cleaning equipment and start hiring or start doing it myself? Talk about your experience and how easy or how difficult or how Window Hero specifically and that franchise experience made it simple for you.
Yeah. I mean, the simplicity behind it was pretty easy. We had a 3-week onboarding, essentially, where we went for training for a week. We had a list of the equipment we need. It's not a requirement to have every X, Y, and Z, but hey, here's some things that you're probably going to want to have. Here's our dealers, here's our distributors, here's our partners that we work with. And, for me, it allowed me to flip a switch. Um, like I said, I mean, if I said, hey, go buy a pressure washer. Okay. What are we going to do here? Like, it's kind of like wiring your house or wiring a room, for new lights. I can probably do it. It's going to take me a long time to figure out how all the wires go together, what I really need to have. Whereas, yeah, you're paying for it. You're paying for that distributor. And we use C3 skids out of Daytona for our equipment. It's built, it's ready, it's right. It's exactly what I need going into it. And I know what I'm getting into. And you get the support model there to talk to the distributor, to talk to the operations team, to talk to the ownership and other franchises and go, hey, here's what I'm running into. What does this look like? How should I optimize the skid? How should I optimize my truck? What do I need to do better? And, I've got another truck, another skid. I'm learning things from the conversations I've had, the use that I've had to manipulate my second skid to make it more optimized based on what I'm trying to do. So, but the franchise itself has been extremely vital because they have guided me into here's how you start off the right way. Here's how the best practice. Here's what we can do that if you follow this 90-day plan, if you follow these directions, there should be opportunities out there for you to have a good first year, but set the stage. I mean, you can have a good first year if you're doing things yourself but if you have a team in place and you're managing a team, yeah, you're not going to make a ton of money. But you're looking at this and setting the standard for repeat business and next year's business and everything else that goes into that. And so that's where I look at it is I want to make sure that I'm utilizing that team to help me scale, grow, have my conversations around the P&L and my chart of accounts and everything else to make sure I can make money doing this, not just get services and render them.
Nice. No, that's good. This idea of having so much done for you, I really think that, a lot of people, and I've talked to some just in general, like general conversation where people are like, well, I don't want to give X amount of my profits away to a franchise. I'd rather hold on to that. For those that have that mentality, what would you say as far as like the benefits of what you've gotten basically in this box package, kind of like you're talking about? And I'm just using this term, but you've been given this phenomenal concept and all the knowledge of successful business right off the bat. Boom, kind of more or less in this package that's accessible to you. Would you say, and I know you're still kind of kicking this off and new to this, but would you say or suggest to anyone else, like, do you think that giving that little percentage up to the franchise is well worth that kind of weight in gold, so to speak, versus like, okay, I'm going to hang on to this profit, but how much time and energy am I going to waste or spend or throw away having to find all this expertise that I got in this nice wrapped up package?
Right.
What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, I don't think anybody's going to find and say, yes, I want to give up my percentages to someone else.
Sure.
If you've been in sales long enough, you get in what you put out. Time and effort equals production. It should. You have to put the time and effort into it. You have to have full buy-in. And there's a lot of people out there who do it from the ground level. And guess what? After 3-4 years, they're killing it. Yeah. That's great. That's a small percentage of people in the industry. And I feel like that I could have done that, but you're always going to have tough times on doing this. The franchise model is not for everybody. But, as we talked about churn in software, the same churn exists in services organizations because people will say, oh, I know how to change. I know I'm going to start a roofing company. I'm going to do a gutter company. I'm going to do a pressure washing company. I'm going to start this company. Most companies fail because they get burnt out. They get tired. They don't have enough revenue. They don't have enough customers. You know, you have to have that support system behind you because otherwise you burn out.
Yeah.
If you don't hit it, the first couple of years, you're going to burn out. It's what happens. And that's why you see so many in many of the service industry, either go into debt trying to do it and then they can't get out of debt. Therefore, then they got to sell everything off. But the franchise model allows you to, like I said, have that support system. And it has to be the right franchise, I think.
Sure.
I looked at other service industries and I talked to other franchises, but for me with Window Hero, their culture was set in place, and you could sense that it was not just a writing on a wall, and a slide in a PowerPoint. It was what was in place with the successful franchises within, out of 25 that they had, about half of them were, generating over $1 million to $1.5 million or more in revenue per year. And it's a scalable company at that point.
Yeah.
But you could see of every one of those franchises, they all had instituted the proper culture. They didn't just start it and go, oh, I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to be on a pressure washer all day. The culture was king for them. And that's my focus on what I'm trying to do with my team. I'm trying to institute a culture. I'm trying to find the right people, not just a pressure washer. I'm wanting someone who can come in, have a conversation, and it's kind of, as I mentioned, like, sit down and have a glass of lemonade with my clients. Like, I want people of the community, not just someone who can do work.
Yeah. And that's
where, like I said, that's what Window Hero does. They build and help you build a culture of, that you can present to your team.
That's good. Culture is one of the things with BirdFlow where I work. We really emphasize a lot on culture because people don't realize a bad culture within your company can really destroy the company, can destroy business. And having that and instilling that right off the get go, right from the beginning, building it out. And being able to recognize, if there's toxicity coming into that, who you're hiring, and then getting people bought in on that culture makes such a big difference because so many people that I'm talking to these businesses and they're like, man, I can't keep people in my company. All my techs, they're here for a short while and then they're taking off or doing whatever. Like, well, take a look at your people. Take a look at your culture. What are you just hiring because they got a pulse and they can, they've got working hands? Are you actually, going out and finding good quality people who have bought into your vision, to your mission, to your, all of these things that you have set up that because everyone wants opportunity, right? We all want opportunity.
Right.
And we all want to be a part of a culture that is doing something great that we can buy into, that we can be a part of. And it sounds like that's very important to you. So talk a little bit more about culture. What are you doing to help, like right from the get go, as you're starting off here, which was just in March? How are you approaching this idea of culture?
I mean, at times not very well. Yeah, this is. This is not something that it's just a one day kind of thing, and I know that. It's a very stressful time, and within the company, family, team, organization, everything, like just everything together, it just makes it very, busy and difficult, and scheduling, and, tell we got rain today. That makes things very interesting because now you're moving work around. But, you know, I've really focused in on trying to hire from referrals.
Okay.
Asking my centers of influence, my community, who do you know that may not want to go to college, that wants job security, that enjoys being outside, that has a willingness to work hard, who also wants growth. You know, um, Everyone presents growth and, new opportunity. Oh, there's levels to grow here. You know, but I think that I try to present it in a way that from the get go, they understand there are real levels of growth here. I do need someone to help me run operations and, you know, eventually a sales team and eventually other companies. Um, but I remember what I was like at 23 years old, you know. Yeah, sounds good, man.
Yeah.
I need to be off by 5 with my guys to go out tonight. So, as a business owner, I can't be out there till 6 o'clock finalizing a job. I can be. It's going to hurt me personally more than professionally.
Yeah.
For me, it's a balance. Culture's hard. I've this week I've had 2 guys that were supposed to come out and give a trial run for a couple hours. One left after 2 hours. One didn't show up at all.
Right.
And you can either dwell on that and get frustrated by that, or you can, as I kind of tell my boys, have some grit, get back on the horse, try to find somebody else. It's a percentage game. You're not going to make every sale. You're not going to hire the right person every single time, but your process should never change. If you're doing the right thing, your process should never change. Yeah. So I focus on being with my team, letting them know I'm willing to do anything to make you guys successful. I'm out here with you. I want to make sure that you guys are having fun doing this. You want to show up to work. But I'm also your boss. So finding that balance of boss, owner, and, employee, there's a dividing line. And sometimes you hit it and it's not great. But you have to have the culture, the hierarchy, and the expectations in place to have a team that's willing to do the things they need to do and show up and work hard and be detailed like I expect them to be. So long-winded way to say I'm not great at it yet, but you have to become that people leader, not a pressure washer.
Right. Yeah, kind of implementing that care and candor, a little bit of both with your staff, with your employees, and knowing like I've got to care about you guys. I want to care about you guys. I want you guys to care about. And when I say guys, I mean guys, gals, but your team, letting them know, like, yeah, I care about you. I want you to care about the company and the business and moving forward. And then being able to implement a little candor when you're coming in and having to be the boss and say, okay, well, we messed this up, but doing that in a way that isn't just like, okay, yeah, I'm just your boss. Yes, I am your boss, but we're in this together. Because for you, and this goes without saying for almost any business, unless you're going to be the Chuck in the truck where it's just you and you're the only one doing it. Your business isn't going to fly without employees like most other businesses. So finding that balance and it sounds like you're working pretty hard towards that. And that's a big learning curve. I have no doubt that's starting to really kind of hit you upside the head and make you realize like this is a it's never going to be simple.
Right.
Actually, we have a saying at Berkflow, and it's simple, but it's not easy.
Right.
So the process itself is simple, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, to lead teams and to grow and to scale and to do all these things that businesses have to do to thrive. So yeah, it's going to be exciting to see you kind of moving forward and growing and doing all the things that I'm pretty excited for you. So talking all of that and, the newness of all of this, I'm going to have you, in the future, I want to have you back on, like later on down the road, and hear some of these things. I do want to talk a little bit real quick about what are your thoughts. So that, we just mentioned chucking a truck. One of the things that we try to instill in people, and I know that just by talking to you a little bit before we did this and we started this, you're already trying to implement this concept of this idea of actually being a business owner, because people believe you start a business that you're a business owner, and kind of, sort of, but I think what people miss sometimes is, did you just create a job for yourself? So you're self-employed, or are you a business owner?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts around just that concept?
You have to set the expectations for yourself as you set the expectations for your team. And I've missed my expectations at times because, I like to be part of a team. I feel bad for my guys working in the rain. The business owner is solely focused on making sure the business keeps on doing this, not, down up. You've got to make sure the company continues to evolve and grow. So, starting out, hiring was very tough. I was not finding anybody. I just had to hire somebody eventually. He actually had some experience in window cleaning. It made my job a little bit easier.
Yeah.
That's great. Made my job so much easier because of his experience. But then he wanted to move back into high-rise window cleaning and not pressure washing. So I was back in square one. Who do I hire? Went back through my network, continually looking for somebody that could come on board. Had a great employee. Great. He's still with me right now. Came from the coffee shop world, believe it or not. No experience doing this. So where does that put me back? Back on a truck, back working, not being a business owner. I am an employee facilitating jobs.
Right.
And, you're always going to have those steps. You're always going to have those things there. Financially, it was I couldn't go pay someone a salary to go do all the stuff that I'm doing. But I know sales. So for me, I put my marketing skills, my sales skills, what I know about my client profile, all those things put in place to start generating more revenue to keep a one person, one truck team operating, and then hopefully getting to a 2-person team for one truck, and then hopefully getting to a 4-person 2-truck team. Like I said, we're not there yet. We have 2 trucks. We don't have 4 people.
Yeah.
So I'm still back on the jobs on occasion, but you have to be. Like I said, we're 5-6 months into service. I don't expect my team to know how to complete a commercial job the right way.
Yeah.
Heck, man, I don't know how to do it the right way yet. But that's where we put it in place. Is you can't expect to be an owner and hands off, because if you do that, what's going to happen? Your guys don't have the buy-in because the culture is not instituted, because you're hiring people that don't understand the culture yet. You have to, we talked about, you can't gain respect till you give respect. You have to have that ability to show them, I'm out here willing to do it with you. I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. I'm going to give you the right tools to do it the right way. That's the owner model. It's finding that balance right now. And like I said, I'm not great at it, but at the same time, we completed a commercial job yesterday that was probably too big for us. But guess what? We got it done.
Nice.
The customer's happy. They're giving us more opportunities. They're a big property management company, and they're excited to have someone they can trust, who is not perfect, but who's willing to get the work done and do it the right way.
Nice.
So
yeah, you're hitting it on the head, man, and that's the idea too. Like so many people starting out, regardless, you're going to have to work in the business, and that's something I think a lot of people have this, and I'm just as guilty. I picture in my mind like I'm going to start a business and I'm going to be sipping Mai Tais on the beach while everybody works for me. Like, bam, that's how it works. Well, that's not reality. And for a while, the reality is you are self-employed.
Right.
Yes, it's your business, but you're self-employed. You've created the job for yourself until you can build that up, like you said, like building that culture, building the people, and then it becomes, now I can move into and start working more on the business now that the culture's set, now that I've developed leaders within the company who can take this to the next level with my help and with my vision, casting that in front of them and hitting the ground running. So, yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So we'll wrap this up. I always ask everyone kind of a couple questions to wrap things up. So one of them being the first, like if you had to say like one thing you should do that you've learned from like November to now through this process, if there was something that you can say, do this, you should do this when you're starting out a business early on, whether it's a franchise or whatever that looks like. What's something just that should do that you would tell someone taking that leap like you did?
Just the one, huh? So,
well, yeah, you can say more than one, but
for me, I look at things, how do we impact a community? If you're not part of the community, why is someone going to hire you? You can go around driving through towns and go, they've got $1 million house. I'm sure they can afford it. I'm going to go knock on their door. You're going to have a lot of no's to it. But if you're not part of your community, people want to work with people in their community. Not necessarily you have to be living in that community, but how are you benefiting the community? We talked about the playgrounds earlier. People move to a community because there's parks there.
Yeah.
They have things for the kids to do. There's a church, there's a school locally. Like, they're moving for kids. What are you doing? Like, I have a giveaway right now, a contest that's within my demographic area, my territory, that is giving away up to $3,000 of services, window cleaning or pressure washing. And the only ask is that parents of the teachers of the school go on and fill out a form just saying they're signing up to give me their information. There's no requirement. They're not, they're looking and saying, hey, my kid's school needs to be cleaned. My school board is not doing this. Not because they don't want to, they don't have the funds to do so. And so our give back to the school, and we can't do it to 10 schools, but we're doing it to 2, is giving away, cleaning their sidewalks, cleaning a patio area, cleaning their windows, a pain that they cannot do themselves. We did it during spring break last year. We went and cleaned 5 schools' windows. So when kids came back from spring break, they came back to nice, clean schools.
Yes.
Give back to your community. That will go a lot longer, a lot further for you in a business model than someone who's just, hey, use me because I have a pressure washer and my cost is lower. Don't focus on price. I mean, that's one thing my career afforded me was sell on pain. Don't sell on price.
Yeah. Awesome. No, it's great advice. And I've heard something very similar is along that community side, like look to do things for your community and really be involved and get yourself seen and out there, not just for the business side of things, um, just to be a great human being. And,
Right.
and I mean, yes, there's going to be benefits to that. And that's natural, but, um, people appreciate seeing that. So that's great. Now we'll get into the should avoid. So at least one thing or two that like as early as possible avoid this.
Um, avoid doing jobs that take away from the focus of the company. We always want to do something because we need the money. But you go down a rabbit hole and you find yourself not making money, taking on a job that doesn't pay well or has too many expectations. It doubles your time, doubles your cost of goods, doubles everything that you have, and it doesn't get you where you want to go because ultimately people sometimes are just not happy with unless they get everything that they want that's above and beyond. And but I think that you know avoid what you cannot control. It's a very
Nice.
broad way to say, but that's the
Well,
only thing I can really think of is just if you cannot control it, don't do it.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I actually no one said that before, and I can appreciate that. That's some wisdom. Um, so many are just going to grasp at every little thing that they can get, any job that comes their way. Um, and not that you can't get creative and learn
Right.
how to do things that may not be 100% your wheelhouse, but yeah, I like the way that you're putting that as, hey, if this, if this isn't profitable for you to do this job whatsoever, you're not making anything this because you're busting your butt just to get the customer, then you know you're kind of spinning your wheels. You're just wasting your time. So
Right.
that's great advice. That's great advice. Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know it's taking time. You're a new entrepreneur. You're out there, kicking butt and um, working hard. And I just really want to stress the fact that you're not just coming on, like it's not just for me. Like this whole show and what we're doing here is for all of these listeners out here who they're trying to get advice. They're reaching, they're grasping, they're wanting to hear, they're wanting to learn. And I feel like we can all learn from one another. And clearly, like there are plenty of people out there that are going to learn a lot of golden nuggets that you've kind of thrown at them today, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for your time. And it's not something that I take lightly. So
No,
um,
thanks, John. It was fun,
and
man.
yeah, and I like I said, later down the road, I want to have you back on because we want to, I want to talk more about some of this and how things have progressed and even more lessons that you can throw at people out there who want to learn and listen. So, um, yeah, it's been a blast. Um, Everyone out there listening, Ben, tell them how they can get in touch with you. Like, because you're in Knoxville, Tennessee,
Yes, sir.
uh, window hero. Everybody should know that. But if you're out there and you're listening and you're in that area and you're like, man, Ben obviously is a phenomenal dude and he's really looking out for his community. And hey, you want his business? Where can they find you, Ben?
Yeah, so they can email us at ben.brown at windowhero.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So if you guys need someone to do some work for you, please contact him if you're in that area and he can help you out. I know he would love to do it, and he's obviously going to do a great job. So Ben, thank you so much. And for everyone out there listening, thank y'all for listening in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell people about it. And we look forward to talking to you again this next week. Where we're going to Under Pressure Podcast. We're talking about everything business and under pressure. Have a great day.